So we're going to start to talk through the leg press now. Now, the leg press as itself is quite a versatile piece of kit in the fact that we can both target the quads efficiently. We can also target more of a hip dominant movement through the glutes. Okay. Now, when you get a client or yourself into the leg press, obviously you're starting, or the movement's going to be predominantly through a pretty extreme range of hip flexion. So if we wanted to test that initially, I'm just going to get Luke with his right leg to essentially lock his hips back in a stable place. And he's going to pull that foot off and just try and bring the knee as close to his torso as possible. And that's where the active range of the hip wants to flex in. If we were to add 100 kilos here and that load then took him past that, we're then entering a passive range and the hip's not going to be stable there. It's not going to fire properly through the musculature around the hip. We don't necessarily want to load there, okay? So just use that as a cue for where you're moving to within the actual range itself. Whether you're doing hip dominant or knee dominant, quads or glutes, you can test that through both. We're going to start with a quad dominant leg press, so to speak, which means that the heels and the feet are going to be positioned as low as we can on the platform whilst keeping the spine and the hips locked and the heels in a pretty stable place on the platform. Luke's going to unrack. He's going to brace hard into the seat and he's going to slowly pull down into the movement, locking the lower back and the hips back into the pad. Eccentrically load the quads, don't bounce out the bottom, and we're going to think about consciously contracting the quads as we push through the platform, driving the hips back now. Same as the hack squat, we can then place more intent, maximizing quad recruitment by pushing the hips back and creating the intent of sliding the heels up as we press. And you can see there's quite an excessive degree of knee flexion on that lower position. Now, alternatively, if Luke were to shuffle up the platform, and we're going to slightly externally rotate the femurs, so point the toes out slightly, which allows the glutes to work a little bit more sufficiently. Same cues with the lower back. We've now created a greater degree of hip flexion as we come down. We're going to slowly come down. Now the glutes are entering more of a length and range. Same cues with the heels. Pull the knees away, externally rotate. Clamp the glutes. Now drive the hips back and drive through. And with the hamstring and glute dominant variation, we can get a little bit more through the hamstring if we drag the heels down, but main intent is to clamp the glutes now and then drive the hips back as we contract up.